Emperor Vorel sat alone in his throne room. The great hall that once filled with thousands of advisors and servants was empty now. He had sent them all away. He did not want anyone to see him like this. The reports lay scattered on the floor where he had thrown them. Each one told the same story: defeat, disaster, destruction. The war had lasted 18 months. In that time, everything had changed. After the first battle, Vorel had sent more fleets. Larger fleets. He had thrown millions of soldiers at the human border. He had used weapons that had destroyed entire civilizations in the past. Nothing worked. The humans did not fight like other species. They did not defend their territory and wait to be destroyed. They attacked. They came out of nowhere, struck hard, and vanished before the Empire could respond. They appeared in systems the Empire thought were safe. They destroyed supply lines. They rescued prisoners. They turned every battle into chaos. And worse, much worse, the rebellion had spread. It started small. A few protests on conquered worlds. Some supply ships that disappeared. Messages of support sent to the humans through secret channels. But it grew. Week by week, month by month, more species joined the fight. They had watched the humans win battle after battle. They had seen the Empire bleed. And they had remembered something they had forgotten long ago, that empires could fall. Now half the galaxy was in open revolt. Species that had been slaves for centuries were fighting back. Systems that had been quiet for 1,000 years were burning with rebellion. The Empire's fleets were stretched thin, trying to put out fires everywhere at once. Vorel looked at his 4 hands. They were shaking. He had ruled the galaxy for 300 years. He had never known fear before. Now he felt it constantly. A door opened. Vorel looked up and saw his oldest advisor enter. The creature's name was Mole, and it had served the throne for longer than Vorel himself. "Great Emperor," Mole said carefully. "There is news. More defeats?" "No, Emperor. A message. From the humans. They wish to negotiate." Vorel laughed bitterly. "Negotiate? Now? After everything that has happened? It seems they believe the war has gone on long enough. They offer talks. Neutral ground. Safe passage guaranteed." Vorel thought about this. Part of him wanted to refuse. Part of him wanted to keep fighting until every human was dead or every ship in the Empire was destroyed. But another part, a quieter part, knew the truth. The Empire could not win this war. They might eventually defeat the humans through sheer numbers. But in doing so, they would lose everything else. The rebellion would spread. More species would break free. The Empire would crumble from within while it fought without. "Arrange the meeting," Vorel said finally. "I will go myself." Mole's many eyes widened. "Emperor, the risk is too great. If this is a trap, then I will die," Vorel said. "But if there is a chance to end this, I must take it. I have made many mistakes. This will not be one of them." The meeting took place on a small moon in neutral space. It was a barren place, gray rock under a black sky. The 2 delegations arrived at the same time, their ships landing on opposite sides of a wide plain. Vorel walked toward the meeting point alone. He had left his guards behind. This was a gesture of trust or perhaps of desperation. He was not sure which anymore. Ambassador Yuno was already there. She stood in the same simple blue uniform she had worn at their first meeting 18 months ago. She looked older now, tired, but her eyes were as calm as ever. Beside her stood Admiral Hyan, in a gray military uniform covered with medals. And Captain Nari, the pilot who had destroyed so many Imperial ships. They watched Vorel approach with expressions that revealed nothing. Vorel stopped a few meters away. For a long moment, no one spoke. The only sound was the wind, cold and empty. "You asked for this meeting," Una said finally. "We are here. What do you want, Emperor?" Varl had practiced this moment in his mind. He had prepared speeches, arguments, demands. But standing here, facing these humans who had destroyed everything he built, he found that words would not come. Instead, he did something he had never done before. He fell to his knees. The humans did not react. They simply watched. "I was wrong," Varl said. His voice was quiet, almost a whisper. "I underestimated your kind. I thought you were insects, primitives, creatures too stupid to know their place. I was wrong about all of it." He looked up at Una. "You said no to me. No one had ever done that before. I did not understand it. I thought you were foolish. But now I see the truth. You were not foolish. You were just unwilling to live as slaves. And that is something I should have respected." Una stepped forward. Her face was hard to read. "Do you know how many died in this war, Emperor? Millions of your soldiers. Hundreds of thousands of ours. Countless civilians across the galaxy. All because you could not accept a single word." "I know," Varl said. "I will carry that weight forever. Will you? Or will you forget as soon as the war ends? Will you go back to conquering and enslaving as soon as you have the chance?" "No," Varl shook his head. "The Empire is finished. Not just because of this war, but because of what it means. We built our power on fear, on the belief that no one could oppose us. You proved that belief was a lie. Even if we somehow won against you, others would rise. The galaxy has changed. Fear is no longer enough." Admiral Hyan spoke for the first time. "What do you offer, Emperor?" "Peace," Varl said. "Real peace. Not the kind where you surrender to me. The kind where we simply stop fighting. And the conquered species? They can choose their own fate. Those who wish to leave the Empire will be free to go. Those who wish to stay will be treated as partners, not subjects. The Empire will become something new. A federation, perhaps. A council of equals. You would give up your power?" Nari asked, doubt clear in her voice. "Power built on slavery is not real power," Varl said. "I see that now. My ancestors conquered the galaxy because they thought it would make them safe. Instead, it made them paranoid, cruel, and hated. I do not want to live that way anymore. I do not want my children to live that way." The humans looked at each other. Some silent communication passed between them. Una turned back to Varl. "We did not start this war. We did not want it. All we ever wanted was to be left alone, to build our colonies, to live our lives. I know. But you forced us to fight. You made us become something we did not want to be. Warriors. Killers. We are good at it, Emperor. We are very good at it. That is not something to be proud of. It is something to be afraid of." She stepped closer, looking down at the kneeling Emperor. "If we agree to peace, you must understand something. We will never be your servants. We will never be your allies against the innocent. And if you ever threaten us again, if you ever make us fight another war like this one, we will not stop at defense. We will come for you. We will come for your throne and your palace and your entire empire. And this time, we will not stop until it is finished." Varl nodded slowly. "I understand. Then we have a deal." Una extended her hand. Varl looked at it for a moment. Such a small thing, a human hand. Soft skin, fragile bones. But behind it stood a species that had shaken the galaxy. He took her hand and shook it. The war was over. Later, as the delegations prepared to leave, Admiral Hyan found Varl standing alone, looking at the stars. "Emperor," Hyan said, "may I ask you something?" Varl nodded. "At the beginning, when Ambassador Una said no to you, what did you think?" Varl was silent for a long time. Then he answered, I thought she was insane. I could not understand why anyone would choose death over submission. And now? Now I understand. Varl turned to look at the old admiral. Your species would rather die free than live as slaves. It is not insanity. It is something else. Something I had forgotten existed. What is that? Honor, Varl said. Dignity. The belief that some things are more important than survival. He paused. My ancestors had those things once, before they became conquerors. We lost them somewhere along the way. Perhaps, in time, we can find them again. Hyan nodded slowly. Perhaps you can. The first step is always the hardest. You took it today. He turned and walked back to his ship. Varl watched him go. Then he looked up at the stars one more time. Somewhere out there, billions of humans were waiting to hear the news. The war was over. Peace had come. They could finally rest, but Varl knew something else. Something that would stay with him for the rest of his long life. The humans had not just won a war. They had changed the galaxy forever. They had proven that even the mightiest empire could fall if enough people were willing to stand up and say no. And they had taught him a lesson he would never forget, that the smallest voice, if it refuses to be silenced, can shake the foundations of the universe. The Emperor turned and walked back to his ship. Behind him, the stars shone cold and bright, watching as the galaxy began to heal. The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was the largest room ever built by any species. It floated in the empty space between three star systems, a massive station made of white metal and crystal glass. Inside, thousands of representatives from hundreds of worlds sat in rising circles around a central platform. The air smelled of different chemicals because each species needed different things to breathe. Small machines floated everywhere, translating words into 1,000 languages at once. Ambassador Yuna stood on the central platform. She was a small woman with short black hair and calm dark eyes. She wore a simple blue uniform with Earth's symbol on her chest. Behind her stood two guards in black armor. They were completely still, like statues. Yuna had come here with hope. Humanity had only discovered faster-than-light travel 50 years ago. In that short time, they had built 12 colony worlds and made friends with several peaceful species. But the Varl Empire controlled most of the galaxy. They had thousands of ships and ruled over 300 worlds. For years, they had ignored humanity. Now, suddenly, they had demanded this meeting. Emperor Varl sat on a floating throne above everyone else. He was tall and thin, with gray skin and 4 arms. His eyes were completely black, like deep holes in his face. Gold chains hung from his neck, and his robes were made of fabric that changed color with every breath he took. Around him floated his advisors, fat creatures with too many eyes who whispered constantly. "You may speak human," Varl said. His voice was deep and bored. He did not even look at Yuna. He was looking at his own claws, examining them like they were more interesting than anything she could say. Yuna bowed her head slightly. "Emperor Varl, I bring greetings from Earth and all human colonies. We are honored by this invitation to discuss peace and cooperation between our peoples." A strange sound filled the hall. It took Yuna a moment to realize it was laughter. Hundreds of Varl species were laughing. The sound was wet and unpleasant, like mud bubbling. "Peace?" Varl finally looked at her. His black eyes showed nothing. "Little creature, you misunderstand why you are here." Yuna kept her face calm. She had been trained for this. Human diplomats spent years learning to control their emotions. "Then please help me understand, Emperor." Varl waved one of his 4 hands. A hologram appeared in the air, showing a map of the galaxy. Human space was a tiny blue dot near the edge. The Varl Empire was a massive red stain covering almost everything else. Your species has built colonies on 12 worlds, Varl said. 7 of those worlds are in space that belongs to the Empire. You did not ask permission. You did not pay tribute. You simply took what was ours. Yuna's heart beat faster, but her voice stayed steady. Those worlds were empty, Emperor. They had no inhabitants, no stations, no signs of any claim. Under galactic law, they were free for settlement. Galactic law? Varl laughed again, and his advisors joined him. I am galactic law, little human. I decide what is allowed and what is not. The hall grew quiet. Other species watched nervously. Many of them had suffered under the Empire. They had been conquered, enslaved, forced to give up their resources and their freedom. They looked at Yuna with something like pity. What do you want from humanity? Yuna asked. Varl smiled. It was not a kind smile. I want your surrender. Complete and total. Your 12 colonies will become property of the Empire. Your people will work for us. Your ships will join our fleet. And Earth itself will pay tribute every year forever. The words hung in the air like poison. Yuna said nothing for a long moment. Behind her, she could feel her guards tensing. They wanted to react, to shout, to do something. But they stayed silent because she stayed silent. And if we refuse, Yuna asked quietly, then we will take everything anyway, Varl said. And instead of becoming servants, your people will become slaves. The difference is small, but I am told it matters to your kind. More laughter from the Empire's representatives. Some of the other species looked away in shame. A few seemed to be enjoying the show. One of Varl's advisors floated forward. It was a round creature covered in slime, with a mouth full of small teeth. You should feel honored, human. The Emperor is being generous. Most species are simply conquered without any offer at all. He gives you this chance because he finds your kind amusing. Amusing? Yuna repeated. Yes, the advisor said. You live such short lives. 80 years, perhaps 100. Like insects, really. And yet you build things, make art, dream of the stars. It is quite entertaining to watch. Yuna looked at the advisor, then at Varl, then at the thousands of faces watching from the seats above. She saw fear in many of them. She saw cruelty in others. And in some, hidden deep, she saw hope. Hope that someone someday would stand up to the Empire. She thought of Earth. She thought of the billions of people living their lives, raising their children, working and laughing and crying. They did not know what was happening here. They did not know that their freedom was being traded away in this cold white hall. She thought of her mother, who had died when Yuna was young. Her mother had been a soldier. On her last day, she had told Yuna something that stayed with her forever. We do not kneel to those who do not deserve our respect. We stand, even when standing is hard. Yuna took a slow breath. Then she smiled. The smile confused Varl. He had expected fear, anger, begging. He had seen it all before from countless species. But this small human woman was smiling at him like he had just told a joke. You find something funny, creature? Varl asked, his voice cold. I was just thinking, Yuna said, about how many species you have conquered. 300 worlds, you said. That is impressive. It is, Varl agreed. Suspicious now. And in all that time, with all those conquests, I wonder. Yuna paused. Has anyone ever said no to you? The hall went completely silent. Even the floating machines seemed to stop moving. What did you say? Varl whispered. I said no. Yuna's voice was calm and clear. Humanity will not surrender. We will not give you our colonies. We will not become your servants or your slaves. We will not pay tribute. The answer is no. Varl stared at her. His 4 hands gripped the arms of his throne so hard that the metal bent. You understand what this means? You understand that I will destroy you? You can try, Una said. Many have tried to destroy humanity before. We are still here. She turned her back to the Emperor. This was the greatest insult possible in galactic culture. You never turned your back to royalty. It meant they were not worth watching. It meant they were not a threat. Guards, Una said quietly. We are leaving. She walked toward the exit, her steps slow and steady. Her guards followed. The hall was so silent that everyone could hear the sound of their boots on the metal floor. You will regret this, Varl screamed. His voice cracked with rage. I will burn your worlds. I will make your people suffer. You will beg me for death. Una stopped at the door. She did not turn around. Perhaps, she said, but you will have to catch us first. Then she walked out, and the doors closed behind her. The galaxy had just witnessed something it had never seen before. A species had told the Emperor, no. And somewhere in the hearts of 1,000 oppressed peoples, a tiny flame of hope began to burn. Admiral Hyan sat alone in his office on the battle station above Earth. The room was dark, except for the blue light of dozens of screens showing information from every human colony. He was an old man now, 67 years old, with gray hair cut short and a face full of lines. Each line told a story. Some were from laughter. Most were from worry. He had spent 40 years in the military. He had seen humanity reach the stars. He had watched them build their first ships, establish their first colonies, make their first friends among the alien species. And now, he watched as everything they had built faced destruction. The message from Ambassador Una had arrived 3 hours ago. Short and simple. Peace talks failed. Prepare for war. Hyan had not been surprised. He had studied the Varl Empire for years. He knew they did not understand the word no. He knew they saw other species as tools to be used or obstacles to be removed. Talking to them about peace was like talking to fire about being cold. He pressed a button on his desk. Get me all fleet commanders. Emergency channel. Within minutes, 12 faces appeared on his screen. They were scattered across human space, each one commanding the ships protecting a different colony. Some were young, some were old. Some looked scared. Some looked angry. All of them looked ready. You have heard the news, Hyan said. It was not a question. We have Admiral, said Commander Tay, a young woman with sharp eyes. She commanded the fleet at New Sol, humanity's largest colony. What are your orders? Hyan looked at each face in turn. These were good people. They had families, dreams, lives they wanted to live. Now he was going to ask them to risk everything. All fleets will pull back to the inner border, he said. Form a defensive line around Earth and the core colonies. We will not spread ourselves thin trying to protect empty space. Admiral, said Commander Day, an older man with a scarred face. If we pull back, we leave the outer colonies exposed. The Empire could take them without a fight. They could, Hyan agreed. But they would find nothing there. I am ordering full evacuation of all outer colonies. Every person, every ship, every piece of equipment. We leave nothing behind that the Empire can use. The commanders exchanged looks. This was a big decision. Millions of people would have to leave their homes. Years of work would be abandoned. How long do we have? Asked Commander Jia, a quiet woman who rarely spoke. I do not know, Hyan admitted. The Empire has never fought a war against a species that said no to them. They will need time to decide what to do. Maybe weeks. Maybe days. We must assume the worst and hope for the best. After the meeting ended, Hyan sat in silence for a long time. Through his window, he could see Earth below. Blue and green and white, the most beautiful thing in the universe. 8 billion people down there, living their lives, Unaware of the storm coming toward them, his door chimed. "Enter," he said. A young officer walked in. Lieutenant Mina, his aide. She was 25, fresh-faced, full of hope despite everything. "Admiral, we have received a communication. From the Pola species." Hyan raised an eyebrow. The Pola were a peaceful species who lived on the edge of Empire space. They had been conquered centuries ago, but were treated somewhat better than other subjects because they had useful technology. "What do they want?" "They want to warn us, sir." Mina handed him a tablet. "And they want to offer advice." Hyan read the message. It was from a Pola elder named Grix. The words were formal and careful, a kind of language used when you were afraid of being watched. "Humans of Earth," the message said, "we have heard what your ambassador did. For the first time in 1,000 years, someone has told Emperor Varl no. We wish to tell you what this means. The Emperor is not angry. He is confused. He does not understand your response. In his mind, no species would refuse his offer unless they had a secret weapon or powerful allies. He will spend time looking for these things. When he does not find them, his confusion will turn to rage. And when the rage comes, it will be terrible. We have seen it before. Whole worlds burned. Species erased from existence. We tell you this not to make you afraid, but to help you prepare. You have perhaps 1 month before the Empire attacks. Use this time well. And if you survive what is coming, please remember us. Remember all the species living under the Empire's shadow. We are watching you with hope we have not felt in centuries. Signed, Grix of Pola. Hyan read the message twice. Then he looked up at Mina. Send a response. Thank them. Tell them we will remember. Days passed. Human space became a storm of activity. Ships flew constantly between colonies, carrying people and supplies to the core worlds. Factories worked around the clock, building weapons and armor and ships. Every person old enough to hold a rifle was trained in basic combat. Earth had not seen such activity since the ancient world wars. And then, something strange happened. A delegation arrived at human space. Not from the Empire, but from dozens of other species. They came in small ships, some barely able to fly, carrying representatives who wanted to talk. Ambassador Yuna met them in a conference room on the lunar base. There were 100 of them, creatures of all shapes and sizes. Some had fur, some had scales, some had no solid form at all. They looked at her with eyes, tentacles, and sensors of every kind. "Why are you here?" Yuna asked. A tall creature with blue skin stepped forward. It spoke through a translator device around its neck. "We are here because you gave us something we had lost. Hope?" Another creature, small and covered in feathers, added. "For 1,000 years, the Empire has crushed everyone who opposed them. We stopped believing resistance was possible. Then we saw you stand before the Emperor and say no. We saw you turn your back on him and walk away. What do you want from us?" Yuna asked. "We want to help," the blue creature said. "Most of us cannot fight openly. The Empire would destroy our worlds. But we can give you information. Ship movements. Supply lines. Weaknesses in their defenses. We can be your eyes and ears." Yuna felt something warm in her chest. It was hope, she realized. Her own hope, growing stronger. Why take this risk? If the Empire finds out, they will kill us, the feathered creature said simply. But we are already dying. Slowly, year by year, our cultures disappear. Our freedom is gone. Our children grow up knowing only how to serve. At least this way, our deaths might mean something. Meanwhile, on the Empire's throne world, Emperor Varl was having a very different kind of meeting. His advisors floated around him, their many eyes blinking nervously. "Report," Varl commanded. "Great Emperor, one advisor said. "We have searched human space extensively. We have found no evidence of secret weapons, no hidden allies, no defensive systems beyond their standard fleet." "Then why?" Vorel demanded. "Why would they refuse? They must know they cannot win against us." "Perhaps they do not know, Emperor. They are a young species. They have never seen the full power of the Empire." Vorel considered this. "Then we will teach them. Prepare the fleets. We will crush them so completely that no species will ever dare say no again." "How many fleets, Emperor?" Vorel smiled coldly. "All of them." The advisors looked at each other. Using all the fleets seemed excessive for a species with only 12 colonies. But none of them dared to question the Emperor. "It will be done, Great Emperor." As the advisors left, Vorel sat alone on his throne. He was still confused by the human response. In his long life, he had never met a species that chose destruction over submission. It did not make sense to him. Life was precious. Survival was everything. Why would anyone choose to die rather than kneel? He did not understand, and because he did not understand, he made a mistake. He assumed humans were foolish. He assumed they would break easily once the fighting began. He assumed their spirit would shatter when they saw the Empire's true power. He was wrong about all of these things. But he would not learn this until it was too late. For now, he sat on his throne, planning the destruction of a species he had never truly bothered to understand. And across the galaxy, humanity prepared for the storm. They built their weapons. They trained their soldiers. They said goodbye to their loved ones, and they waited. The Empire's fleet arrived at the edge of human space like a wave of death. 3,000 warships, 2 million soldiers, enough firepower to crack planets in half. Fleet Commander Zorn stood on the bridge of his flagship and smiled at the view on his screens. Finally, he said, "No more waiting. Today we teach these insects their place." His officers laughed. This would be easy, they all believed. The humans had only a few hundred ships at most. The battle would be over in hours. Then they would move through human space, burning every world they found, until nothing remained but ash and memory. "Sir," said a sensor officer, "we are picking up something strange." "Strange how?" "There is a single human ship approaching our fleet." "Just one. A small vessel, barely armed." Zorn frowned. "A messenger, perhaps? Do they wish to surrender already?" "Unknown, sir. They are hailing us." "Put them through." A human face appeared on the main screen. It was a young woman with black hair and calm eyes. She wore a pilot's uniform with a captain's insignia. Her name tag read Nari. "Commander Zorn," Nari said, her voice steady. "I am here to deliver a message from Admiral Hyan." Zorn laughed. "A message? Let me guess. You want to beg for mercy?" "It is too late for that, little human. Your ambassador made her choice. Now you will all suffer for it." Nari did not react to his words. She simply continued as if he had not spoken. "The Admiral wants you to know that you are making a mistake. This is your last chance to turn around and leave. If you continue into our space, we will destroy you." The bridge erupted in laughter. Officers held their stomachs and wiped tears from their eyes. A single human threatening a fleet of 3,000 ships? It was the funniest thing they had ever heard. Zorn wiped his own eyes. "You are either very brave or very stupid, human. Perhaps both. Tell your admiral that we will see him soon. And when we do, we will make him watch as we burn everything he loves." Nari nodded slowly. "I will tell him. But first, I should mention one more thing. Look at your sensors. Count your ships." Zorn frowned. "What are you talking about?" But he looked anyway. He looked at the display showing his fleet. 3,000 ships, exactly as expected. No, wait, that was not right. The number was lower. 2,987. How is that possible? Sir, the sensor officer said, voice trembling, we have lost 13 ships. They just disappeared from our formation. No explosions, no warnings. They are simply gone. Nari smiled. The Admiral also wanted me to tell you something else. We have been watching you for months. We know where every ship in your fleet is positioned. We know your communication codes. We know the names of your commanders and the weaknesses of your vessels. She leaned closer to the camera. You thought the silence meant we were hiding. You were wrong. The silence meant we were hunting. The screen went dark. Nari's ship turned and flew back toward human space at maximum speed. Zorn stood frozen for a moment. Then he shouted, all ships, raise shields. Full alert. Find out what happened to those 13 ships. The answers came quickly, and they were terrifying. Human stealth ships had slipped into the fleet undetected. They had attached bombs to the hulls of Imperial vessels and detonated them from the inside. 13 ships destroyed without a single shot being fired. How is this possible? Zorn demanded. Our sensors should have detected them. Their technology is more advanced than we expected, sir. They have some kind of cloaking system we have never seen before. Zorn clenched his fists. No matter. We still have thousands of ships. They have hundreds. The math is simple. We will crush them with numbers alone. All ships advance into human space. Destroy everything you find. The fleet moved forward. For a while, nothing happened. They flew deeper into human territory, sensors scanning constantly, weapons ready. Every officer was tense, waiting for the next attack. It came from nowhere. Captain Nari led a squadron of 12 human ships out of the darkness. They appeared suddenly, like ghosts materializing from the void. Before the Imperial ships could react, Nari's squadron opened fire. Human weapons were different from anything the Empire had seen. They used something called kinetic acceleration, launching solid projectiles at incredible speeds. No energy shields could stop them. They punched through Imperial armor like paper dot in the first 30 seconds. Nari's squadron destroyed 47 Imperial ships. The Empire fought back. Thousands of weapons turned toward the small human force. Energy beams and missiles filled space with light and fire. But the human ships were fast, incredibly fast. They dodged and weaved through the attacks like dancers, avoiding clumsy hands. They are too quick, an Imperial officer shouted. Our targeting systems cannot track them. Then fire everywhere. Zorn screamed. Fill the space with so much firepower that they cannot escape. It almost worked. The sky became a wall of death. But Nari had expected this. She led her squadron into the heart of the Imperial fleet itself. Now the enemy could not fire without hitting their own ships. Follow me, she said to her pilots. Stay close. Strike fast. Do not stop moving. The human ships tore through the Imperial formation like wolves among sheep. They destroyed ship after ship, leaving trails of wreckage behind them. Imperial commanders panicked, giving confused orders, making mistakes. Then the main human fleet arrived. Admiral Hyan led them personally. Standing on the bridge of humanity's pride, 200 ships against nearly 3,000. The odds were impossible. But Hyan had not come here to fight fair. He had come here to win. All ships, execute pattern storm, he ordered. The human fleet split into dozens of small groups. Each group attacked a different part of the Imperial formation. They did not stay in one place long enough to be targeted. They hit hard and moved on, then hit again from a different direction. The Empire had never faced tactics like this. Their training was based on large fleet battles, where ships formed lines and traded fire until one side broke. This chaos, this constant movement, this refusal to fight properly, it confused them completely. And then there were the human soldiers themselves, on one Imperial ship. A boarding party burned through the hull and entered. The Imperial guards expected the humans to be weak, small, fragile. What they found was something else entirely. The human soldiers moved with terrifying speed and precision. They did not hesitate. They did not show fear. They fought like animals, like machines, like nothing the Empire had ever seen. When one fell, the others kept moving. When they were wounded, they kept fighting. When they were surrounded, they fought even harder. One Imperial guard survived the encounter. He hid in a storage closet and watched through a crack in the door. Later, he would describe what he saw to his commanders. They were not like other species, he said, still trembling. Other species fight to survive. These humans fought like they did not care if they died. They fought like death was just another tool to use against us. I saw one of them take wounds that should have killed him instantly. He kept fighting for another 10 minutes before he fell. And even then, even as he was dying, he was still shooting. The battle lasted for 6 hours. When it ended, the Empire had lost over 200 ships. The human fleet had lost 30-7. Commander Zorn could not believe the reports. He had expected total victory. Instead, his fleet was bleeding, his officers were terrified, and the humans were still coming. Retreat, he ordered finally. All ships, fall back to the border. We need to regroup. The Imperial fleet fled. They ran from a force 1/10 their size. They ran because they had finally understood what they were fighting. Humans were not insects. They were not primitives. They were something ancient and terrible, something the galaxy had forgotten existed. They were Death Worlders. Creatures evolved on a planet that tried to kill them every day. Survivors of plagues and famines and wars that should have wiped them out. They had been fighting since before they could walk upright. Violence was not something they learned. It was something they were. On the bridge of humanity's pride, Admiral Hyan watched the enemy retreat. He felt no joy, only determination. Do not pursue, he ordered. Let them run. Let them tell the Emperor what happened here. Captain Bio stepped beside him. Sir, we won. We actually won. We won a battle, Hyan corrected. The war is just beginning. But now the Empire knows what we are. And that knowledge will spread. Every species in the galaxy will hear about today. They will know that the Empire can be hurt. They will know that it is possible to say no and survive. He looked out at the stars, at the wreckage floating in the darkness, at the distant lights of his home. This is just the beginning, he said quietly. And it will get worse before it gets better. But we have shown them something important today. We have shown them that humanity does not break. Across the galaxy, the news spread like fire. The Empire had been beaten. The humans had won. And somewhere on 100 oppressed worlds, people began to whisper about revolution. 3 months passed. In that time, something strange happened in human space. The humans went silent. It started slowly. First, the trade ships stopped coming. Species who had done business with humans for decades suddenly found their messages unanswered. Trade stations that had been busy with human merchants sat empty. The goods stopped flowing. The conversations stopped happening. Then the communications went dark. Human broadcasts that used to fill certain frequencies disappeared. Their news channels, their entertainment, their scientific discussions, all of it simply ended. Where there had been noise, now there was nothing. Just empty static. Finally, the borders closed. Human patrol ships that used to greet visitors now turned them away without explanation. The few ships that tried to enter human space without permission never came back. They simply vanished into the darkness, and no one ever heard from them again. The galaxy noticed. How could it not? Humans had been everywhere just months ago, buying and selling, talking and laughing. Now they were ghosts. Present in memory but absent in reality, Emperor Voro received reports about the silence. He sat on his throne and listened as his advisors described the strange behavior. They have closed all borders, Great Emperor. No one goes in. No one comes out. What about our spy ships? Voro asked. The advisor hesitated. We have sent 17 spy ships into human space over the past 2 months. None have returned. Equipment failure? Perhaps, Emperor. But 17 ships? All with the same failure? It seems unlikely. Voro waved a hand dismissively. They are hiding. Like animals who know a predator is coming. They crawl into their holes and hope we will not find them. Of course, Great Emperor. But some of the advisors exchanged worried looks. The silence felt wrong. It did not feel like fear. It felt like something else. Like the moment before a storm breaks. Like the quiet breath before a scream. Across the galaxy, other species talked about the silence in whispers. What were the humans doing? Why had they disappeared? Some said they were building a massive weapon. Others said they were digging bunkers deep underground. A few said they had found a way to escape to another galaxy entirely. The Polar Elder, Grick, sent another message to his contacts among the free species. The humans are not hiding, he wrote. They are preparing. I have seen this behavior before in the ancient texts. There was a species called the Corvan, 1,000,000 years ago. They went silent for 6 months before the Empire attacked them. When the Empire finally arrived at their worlds, the Corvan were ready. The war lasted 100 years. The Empire won in the end, but they lost 1/3 of their fleets. The silence is not weakness. It is concentration. The humans are focusing everything they have on the fight to come. Inside human space, Grix was exactly right. Every factory worked day and night. Every shipyard built vessels as fast as possible. Every training center pushed soldiers through programs that would have taken years in peacetime. Sleep became rare. Rest became a memory. There was only work and preparation. Admiral Hyan stood on the bridge of humanity's pride, the largest battleship ever built by humans. It had been finished just 2 weeks ago, rushed to completion by workers who understood what was coming. The ship was massive, almost 2 kilometers long, bristling with weapons and armor that represented humanity's best technology. Status report, Hyan said. His second-in-command, Captain Bio, checked his screens. All systems operational, Admiral. The fleet is assembled. 247 combat vessels, 83 support ships, 42 stealth units. Hyan nodded. It was not enough. The Empire had thousands of ships. But it was what they had, and they would use it. Any word from the listening posts? Nothing yet, Admiral. The Empire's fleets are still gathering at their staging points. Our friends among the other species report they are preparing for a massive assault. How massive? Bio paused. They say the Emperor is sending everything. Every ship. Every soldier. He wants to make an example of us. Hyan smiled grimly. Good. If they bring everything, they leave nothing to defend their other holdings. Our allies will have opportunities. He looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there, beyond the darkness, an army was gathering to destroy everything he loved. His family was on Earth. His grandchildren, just 5 and 7 years old. They did not understand what was happening. They only knew that grandfather had to go away for a while. He had promised them he would come back. He intended to keep that promise. Meanwhile, on the colony of New Sol, Commander Tay was having a different kind of meeting. She sat in a small room with 20 civilians. They were engineers, scientists, teachers, ordinary people who had asked to speak with her. "You wanted to see me," Tay said. "I am very busy, so please be quick." An older woman stood up. Her name was Sue, and she had been a history teacher before the crisis began. "Commander, we want to help. We are not soldiers, but we can fight. The military is not accepting more recruits at this time," Tay said. "Training takes too long. We need people to keep the colonies running." "We are not talking about joining the military," Sue said. "We are talking about something else. We have been studying the Empire's tactics. They always attack military targets first. They ignore civilians because they see us as no threat. We want to use that against them." Tay leaned forward, interested despite herself. "How?" "Guerrilla warfare," Sue said. "If the Empire takes our colonies, we will not accept it peacefully. We will fight from the shadows. We will make every building, every street, every room a trap. We will never stop resisting, even if we lose the first battle." Tay looked at the faces around the room. Old people, young people, men and women who had never held a weapon in their lives. They were scared. She could see that. But they were also determined. "This is not a game," Tay said quietly. "If you fight and lose, the Empire will not be kind. They will make examples of you." Sue nodded. "We know. But we would rather die fighting than live as slaves. Is that not the whole point of what we are doing?" Tay was silent for a moment. Then she stood up and bowed to them, a deep bow of respect. "I will have weapons and training materials sent to you. Learn fast. And when the time comes, make them regret ever coming here." The silence continued. Days turned into weeks. The Empire's scouts tried again and again to penetrate human space. More ships disappeared. The Emperor grew frustrated. "What are they doing in there?" Morrill shouted during one meeting. "Why can we not see anything?" "They have deployed some kind of sensor disruption technology," an advisor explained nervously. "Our scans show nothing but static. We are flying blind." "Then send more scouts. Send 100 ships at once." "We have, Great Emperor. We lost all of them in a single day." Vorl went quiet. For the first time, something like doubt appeared in his black eyes. These humans were not behaving like any species he had faced before. They did not flee. They did not beg. They did not even threaten. They simply went silent and waited. It was unsettling. "Enough waiting," Vorl finally said. "The full fleet is ready. We attack in 3 days. I want every human world burned. I want their species erased from history. I want the galaxy to see what happens when someone says no to the Empire. It will be done, Great Emperor." The order went out. The largest fleet ever assembled in the history of the Empire began to move. Thousands of ships, millions of soldiers, all heading toward a small patch of space, where a young species waited in silence. The storm was finally coming, and the humans were ready. On the bridge of humanity's pride, Admiral Hyan received the news from their allies. The Empire's fleet had left their staging area. They would arrive in human space within a week. He looked at Captain B.O. "Send the signal to all commanders. Operation Silent Thunder begins now." B.O. nodded and began transmitting. Hyan allowed himself one moment of fear. Then he pushed it away and focused on what needed to be done. His grandchildren were counting on him. His species was counting on him. The entire galaxy, whether they knew it or not, was counting on him. He would not let them down. The silence was about to end. And when it did, the galaxy would hear something it had never heard before. The sound of humanity at war.